when the masculine and feminine are more in coherence, they manifest alignment, or the holy trinity, right? Masculine, feminine alignment, trinity is God. But when they're in misalignment, they create the pandemonium. Like when they're in extremes, that's when they're the most separated from oneness, or like from God.
A lot of psychosis in my world, where there's this complete disconnection from this physical reality, and everything becomes so allegorical about transcending the illusion of this matrix. We kind of lose the experience of this beautiful, wonderful human material reality.
I personally, this is my opinion again, I don't think a man can ever be a woman, or a woman can ever be a man, because that's just two different bodies. And I think women, especially after so much oppression and sexual harassment and a bunch of things, they do deserve their own spaces. And men deserve their own too.
He's like, you can call me whatever the fuck you want. Like, whatever serves your narrative works for me. You know? He's like, you can call me a woman, I know who I am. And he's not like, I'm a man, I'm a trans man, which is a totally different thing. My guest today is Irah, a metaphysics researcher focused on helping high-achieving entrepreneurs consciously create reality and scale soul-led wealth, the principle of gender. Irah believes masculine and feminine energies are not merely archetypes. They are foundational creative forces shaping civilization itself. When harmonized, they elevate consciousness. When distorted, they fragment identity and destabilize culture. But this conversation goes farther. Because imbalance doesn't just create chaos, it creates leverage. Through history, systems of power have depended on division, ideological, psychological, and energetic, to maintain influence. When polarity is amplified, attention fragments, and when identity destabilizes, sovereignty weakens. So, today the question becomes, is today's polarization organic evolution? Or is division functioning by design within systems that struggle to survive without it? Today we're exploring power, polarity, sovereignty, and what restoring internal balance means in the collapse of an old architecture that has long profited from fragmentation. Let's begin. Holy
I'm excited.
What an introduction, Irah. Wow. Welcome to the Spiritual Debate Podcast.
I'm so excited for it.
I'm so happy to have you here today. I feel like we are going to be getting into probably some of the most intense conversations we can about the system, about why the systems are at play, and ultimately what the heck is happening in the world and how we can navigate it. So, I first want to begin with you. I want to understand what your principles and foundation of beliefs are about masculine and feminine energy. Let's start there.
Cool. So I personally, well, of course, after my own awakening and studies, I have came to the conclusion, I think like a lot of people in the spiritual space, that everything is one, right? Like God is really just everything. We are like in a space of made by consciousness for consciousness, and it is literally everything is consciousness, oneness. But what a lot of people seem to miss out on is that it's not just non-duality, but as long as you are in the material, there is a refraction. This is why, there is separation. And the material has its set of principles. What I like to follow is more hermetics, or hermeticism overall, the seven principles, which is basically quantum physics applied. So the principle of gender basically states gender is to beget, to create, right? And when the two energies come together of masculine and feminine, they create reality. So if as long as you're here, you're going to be answering to the almost like to the formation of what these two energies are doing. Okay. So the masculine and feminine, I mean, like if we can dive into each of them, the feminine energy would be the creative void behind everything. If you think of the matrix, it would be the matrix itself. In Spanish, we call the womb, we call it matriz, matrix, for a reason, right? So the feminine energy is the like that void that has all the potential. Quantum physics, for example, you can see the feminine energy as the particles that are still in a infinite state of probability up until they are observed, and through the perception you give it when you are observing, it materializes into matter or as solid, which would be the masculine, right? Like the observation or the perception organizes this infinite potential into materialization. So that would literally be the masculine energy and how it takes that infinite void and creative force and structures it into reality. But I mean, that has to do more with reality. But when it comes to a human being, it has everything to do. I mean, you can look at it scientifically with the two hemispheres of the brain, right? With the right brain being the more creative portion and the left brain being the more masculine portion. So, or like the more logical, rational, that, yeah. So overall, yeah, these two energies basically create how you project reality. So it's almost like a projection. The way I love to see it the most, I don't know if you've ever seen the Pink Floyd, the Dark Side of the Moon, like the album cover, or have you seen like nuance prism, like when you shine a light through a prism and it
Yes.
refracts into the seven color spectrum? Think about it that way, right? Where like God is shining like its light, it's like the oneness into the prism of the mind, which would be the subconscious, the feminine, and then it refracts into the external, the material, the masculine. It's really interesting. I mean, if you begin to even look at it scientifically, you can really tie the dots with that. But that's basically the entire cosmovision in a couple words.
Wow. When you say it that way, I immediately understand it. And even though I haven't studied, I'm not a researcher of quantum mechanics, or really my understanding is more so through the psychic plane. I see more of the quantum field, I see more of the interdimensional worlds and realms. I really understand the perception that you have of reality, and I stand by that. I believe that that is also true. I wonder, however, within this masculine and feminine energy, do you believe, if we are all one, then that there's also kind of a opposition within this plane as well that goes maybe further than just masculine and feminine? Like, do you believe there is such thing as like good and evil? Does that exist in your perception of reality?
Absolutely. Okay, so this is have you ever heard of the principle of correspondence in Hermeticism as well? Of everything is like but half truths, as within, so without, right?
Yes.
The principle of correspondence. So what is truth and reality is always going to be a paradox that the human mind can't really grasp. So, for example, ultimately, like the grand truth, the grand, like the biggest truth is that, yeah, there's no evil, there's no good, everything is one. But what a lot of people fail to realize with that mentality is that you are still in this experience. You are still in this material. And in order for you to navigate this illusion, you need to learn how to work with this illusion. And within this illusion, there is duality. So when people think of like, oh, oneness and everything, and there's no evil, a lot of them begin to not really embody that truth. Like, Christ, right? For example, I'm not Christian, but Christ would see everything as, of course, one, but at the same time would have discernment. It has a balance between the masculine, which would be the discernment, like, okay, but yeah, this is wrong and this shouldn't be done, and the feminine, which is the forgiving archetype of the mother, like the connection to the oneness, right? So it's a balance between these two as long as you are here. Okay, when you're gone, you can, yeah, you're gonna be like, there's not gonna be any evil or good or whatever, but as long as you are here, it's very important to use like both of these energies to discern. Otherwise, what happens is that you create spiritual bypassing, right?
Yes. Yes, I resonate. I'm really glad you said that too. I wasn't sure what your stances were on good and evil. I do believe that in this realm, we do experience, I guess what we would say is morally right and what is morally wrong. And I think we know what those things are. But then I think it kind of takes it a step further than that, where our human knows what is moral, maybe what is right, what is good to do to your fellow neighbor. And then on the systems on the whole and how we experience ourselves within this mass consciousness, I feel like there is corruption for corruption's sake. And when we do not do the transmutation work to actually sit with that discomfort of that reality, then we kind of bypass some of the main foundations we need to have in this realm specifically. Which is, yes, I would say our consciousness needs to know that in the highest dimension possible, in the highest truth of our oversoul, everything is all one. And yet in this dimensional experience, that doesn't serve us any other than an understanding unless we know what to do within this realm and how to navigate it. It's like a game. We can't go, oh, well, I know in the highest realm, like I understand this game. You got to play the game in this lifetime. I think we need more of that understanding.
Exactly. What you explained right now is the principle of what I call black magic. I mean, a lot of people have their own definitions of black magic, but for me, black magic is when you try to bypass or almost like skip certain lessons that you need to actually reach integration of a certain truth. So, for example, when it comes to people who are very non-dual and they're like, yeah, like duality doesn't exist, like good and bad doesn't exist, like you are the one that projects everything in reality, and like if you go if you through this horrible traumatic thing, like you attracted it, like that kind of bypassing, for example, and like they say that they're in this state of like oneness. What I find that to be is a skipping of integration, right? Because in order for you to reach non-duality, for example, and you can see this with the kundalini, with the quetzalcoatl, the snake with the wings, right? The symbology there, the Masonic. Oh, I have some hair. Sorry. The Masonic table, the dual Masonic table of that looks like chess, right? With the stairs, Jacob's ladder as well. Like all of these are different symbolisms for the road to enlightenment being a dual path, like being able to integrate both energies or duality overall. Through integrating duality, you create non-duality, and that's the game, right, of reality. But when you try to skip the ladder, right, you try to like jump over to non-duality, you're creating almost like a false, um you're perversing that truth, you're creating like a shadow side to it. So you begin to, like, it's not true, it's a mirror or I would say a mockery almost to a very sacred truth overall, that like people take a long time to get there. I mean, like lifestyles to actually get to non-duality, right? So to kind of just say like, oh yeah, good and bad is like not real, and like skip completely the experience of the material is false light, what I like to call.
Oh, girl, you are speaking my freaking language. I love the way that you're speaking to this and how often we're seeing this in our community. When I say our community, I talk about, let's say, spiritual seekers, those that are on the path of awakening. There is this overglorification of, A Course of Miracles. Everything is an illusion. Fear is an illusion. It's all just one big illusion. And then no actual implementation of true embodiment in this physical form. It's just concepts and identities of non-duality, but nothing actually in their lived experience truly harmonized. And I love that you shared that it kind of makes a mockery of the path, the arduous path of what I call the narrow path. The narrow path of truly doing this work, truly following God, truly following your mission, truly staying in coherence with why you came here as a spirit to support integration, harmonization, ascension for the highest, greatest good. It's easy to just go, oh, well, this is all a mirror and this is just a construct of my rendered reality. But I think there's a nuance here, and I want to unpack this with you, because those who say that, right, like this is all a mirror and all of a construct and this, that, how do you approach that conversation with helping somebody deconstruct that part of their consciousness that has become so warped by false light? Like sometimes some of my clients will go through this and they've been mentored by somebody who says, oh, no, that's your mirror. And there's such a deep level of gaslighting that they've experienced that they question whether or not they're actually the problem, or if they're actually the one that maybe it is just my mirror, even though I feel like I'm in this reality and I'm trying to go through this lesson to integrate it. Like, how do you navigate supporting somebody and truly mastering non-dual from integration if they've come from this washing of a narrative that we call transcendence of all duality?
Right. So, well, number one, when it comes to those people, I think it's important to have a lot of compassion towards them, because even if they're tarnishing a lot of the lessons, and a lot of them, I do see them teaching it as well, and I'm just like, damn, like that's like you're literally teaching black magic, you know. But at the same time, I don't. I think it's important to also have compassion because, for example, when I had my spiritual awakening, I was also in that state of like non-duality, blah blah blah. Because that's how spiritual awakenings work. I mean, a lot of the time, like when we have a spiritual awakening, what happens is that we awaken the life force energy within the sacral. This would be called the Shakti energy that rises up the spine, right, and actually awakens you to the truth of like non-duality. But then you have to like take it and put it down with the masculine, the Shiva, and construct actually integrate that truth through constructing your reality with it, which is how you take divinity and make it a material thing. Like that's literally what God does. But anyways, when it comes to that journey that they're in, eventually they have to awaken the solar plexus. Okay. I don't find that something that a lot of these people, that yeah, they wake up to the truth of non-duality, but their solar plexus is almost like averia. I don't know how to say that in in English. Averia, broken, or it's like their battery is broken. Like they have a they don't have a match like with their batteries. They have the feminine energy overreactive, and then they have the masculine that is not really working very well. So if you were to try to convince them of coming back down to earth, a lot of them are going to actually be against what you say until they go through their own process to integrate the masculine energy, the process of maturity, becoming going from being a child to an adult, right? Which is the integration from the feminine to the masculine and working together, right? So that's kind of how I would see it more. Like, of course, like, yeah, you can educate them, like, help them understand, like, how their system works and help them become more grounded. Because if you're in that state, you're up in the clouds, you're in illusion, you need to come back down to earth through creating in the material world. You can't just stay up in the clouds because you miss the entire point of being here. I mean, if you're gonna be up in the clouds, you may as well just cut life and just go to the next side, right? But yeah, that's kind of how I see it. But again, like you can't convince a person that what they're going through is like not real. Because I know very well that like when I went through it, it was so real, and I just had to ground myself and live through experiences that helped me develop my masculine energy to actually anchor myself in the material and continue creating.
The irony is that they believe that everything is an illusion, but they're caught in illusion by believing that they're not, like, that everything is an illusion. Like, that's the odd part. It's like, no, I've transcended. Everything is an illusion, but the illusion is the fact that you're in this realm, and in order to be able to experience non-duality, which is what you're saying you are, you have to integrate the duality. Like, that's a very earth-shattering experience. Like, for me in my journey, I had very similar to you. I was very much caught in I think the spiritual seeking path in the beginning of your journey, where everything is love and light and everything is a construct that you're rendering. And I think those principles are still very important. And then for me, I experienced different types of entity interference. And at that time, I had no concept of like nefarious astral entities. I had no understanding of karma and justice. I had no idea that there were interferences from lifetimes that were bleeding through. And long story short, that was my moment of, wait, oh, well, I thought this, but I wasn't actually really in the ultimate truth. And so I wonder, is it true that there is an ultimate truth? And then is it also true that people are rendering the reality based on their own truth, and that is truth? In your experience, how do you discern between ultimate and rendered truth that is an illusion? Or is that their truth, even if it is illusion?
Right. So, well, I mean, there's a bunch of truths in general. We will never really know, I mean, which one's the one that's right, because I mean, we're here. I guess we'll know that when we're gone. But when it comes to this path, I like to call it the path, the wretchiest path, the middle path, right? Where you work a lot with these two energies. I don't know if you have heard of the myth of Icaros and Daudelios in the Greek mythology, or of the guy with the wax wings. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but
No.
basically these two men escaped from how do you call it? They escaped from captivity, flying with their wax wings. Okay, they had wax wings and they were flying, and because Icarus was like, oh my god, I have wings, He looked at the sun and he was like, like, I want to be close to the sun. And he became mesmerized by the beauty of the sun, like almost like in a trance. And he flew up to the sun and his wings melted and he fell to his death. And then Daedalus, I don't know how to say his name, but Daedalus continued flying at a steady pace between Earth and the sky to where he couldn't be burnt, but he could feel the heat from the sun and still be grounded to land to the Earth. So he was able to to successfully escape his captivity. Right. So this is a really interesting mythology and archetype for the human mind when they have an awakening, because they think that they are actually escaping the captivity of being in like the matrix. I don't even like to say, like, when I say matrix now, I'm just like, I don't even see it as like a, like, you know, like the movie, but escaping like the quote unquote matrix. And they're like, oh my God, I'm awakened, like the truth, whatever. And then they fly up too much to the sun. What I like to call the sun in ancient esotericism, the light from the spiritual is seen as Lucifer, right? And Lucifer is not bad, by the way. A lot of people are like, oh my God, Lucifer, you know, because of Christianity. But Lucifer is really just that light, that the light bringer that comes and gives humans the truth. Like Christ or Jesus was able to integrate the Christ energy within him thanks to Lucifer, because that's not an entity, it's just an archetype of consciousness that gives light to the human consciousness, spiritual light. And this is the feminine, right? The feminine energy. Now, what happens when Lucifer becomes so beautiful that you neglect your mission in this world? Lucifer has a fall of consciousness. Lucifer itself like fell from the heavens because it didn't believe that it was one with God, right? It believed that they were better than God and greater than God. So it fell from the heavens, and they live in illusion. They're crazy, literally insanity. So the cool thing about Lucifer is that it's not, again, it's not an entity, it's just an archetype of consciousness of what happens to spiritual people when they blind themselves. They're in false light. They use the Lucifer, but they don't ground themselves. Begin to be overtaken by the beauty of Lucifer, right? And they go and they blind themselves, just like Icarus, who fell from the skies. Again, same exact analogy, but who fell from the skies because they went too much into the light. So yeah, that's basically a very important thing to keep in mind with the masculine and feminine, because two extremes, if you can see like what extremes are, you can see what's closer to truth. Esoterically, when the masculine and feminine are more in coherence, they manifest alignment, or the holy trinity, right? Masculine, feminine alignment, trinity is God. It creates the trinity. But when they're in misalignment, they create the pandemonium, or the it's like a toxic marriage. Or yeah, it's a pandemonium would be like the best way, because like when they're in extremes, that's when they're the most separated from oneness, or like from God, right? But they're also in false subconsciousness, like in complete separation. So it creates like this very distorted energy that is refracted. And the extreme of the feminine, of course, thinks that's light, it thinks that's truth. And the extreme of the masculine doesn't care about God anyways. Like that's complete, like they don't even care about this the spiritual, you know.
No, that, like, I knew that when I had this conversation with you, it was going to just like give me massive elasticization of my brain, because I feel we hold similar opinions and experiences. We're just looking at the prism from a different perspective. Do I hold more of a biblical truth, I think, maybe perhaps than you do? Yes, I'm not religious, but I do believe Lucifer was a fallen angel, but I also believe that he was a fallen angle of consciousness. So I kind of hold both truths. Like, I can hold both of them and see that there are very literally physical, nefarious entities that are life forms, that are fallen aspects of consciousness that support us in evolution, that are also at the same time, in essence, real in this dimension. Yeah. And I also hold that they are just fallen aspects of consciousness that support us in evolution. So I do hold that truth. I wonder, then, in your experience of reality, do you believe that what's happening with the systems of control and the systems on this planet that use consciousness as leverage, do you believe that that is happening all benevolently for the highest, greatest good? Do you believe that there is a resistance of this fallen consciousness and that it has a point, or that it has no real service to humanity and it's kind of coming in as a nefarious opposition? How do you perceive what's happening in the world with, opposition of consciousness?
Opposition. Okay, so I like to think about it like obviously two ways. Like, yeah, we're in this game, and like a lot of people are very much in extremes, whatever. But at the same time, I feel like this is just like natural evolution of consciousness, what we're meant to go through. Because from darkness comes light, right? If we're gonna be able to evolve into a spiritual society that centers the spiritual first before the material, which is not what we have at all right now, we have to actually learn to balance out these two energies. And what better way to learn than to be in extremes first, right? Like, it's not like we're gonna get here and already be in like balance, right? And that's when you basically, like, that's kind of how I see it. Like, yeah, like we're inside this whole thing, and it is important for those that know about this to talk about it, to help others. But at the same time, you can't really interfere with people's path if they are overtaken by certain agendas, because that's just like the path that they're meant to go down, and that's okay. And all you can do is really just have compassion, right, as well, but at the same time discernment, because otherwise that's when you begin to bypass a lot of the things that they do. But overall, I feel like these elites, or like these people that are really controlling like the whole government and world, they obviously, like every single thing that they do, I'm always like, oh, they're using this energy towards this energy, and this is how it's like. I literally can tell exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it the moment that I hear that they did something, just because I can, like, I know the principles and I work with them myself. And so these people, they know about these principles because have you ever heard about animalistic magnetism?
I have not.
So this is the way to control the human mind. It's really interesting, and I'm not saying like whoever's watching this, by the way, do not use it. I'm doing this like this is for you to like protect yourself, okay? But the way to actually do it, there are two polarities in your mind, okay? You have the feminine, which is receptive, and the masculine, which is directive. It's like electric, magnetic, and electric. So telepathy is the reason why telepathy can even happen is because the principle of all is mind. We are all one with the mind of God. And right now we are one with each other. So this is why I can be thinking about something and then my friend like says it out loud, you know? Telepathy is possible because we are all sharing the same mind, essentially. So the way to actually maneuver the mind is through the principle of gender, because since everything is mind, the principle of gender is almost like how you maneuver the mind, like how you're able to manipulate the mind and make it work towards whatever you want it to. So if we're talking about mind control, you have to work with these two energies to control somebody. So the feminine energy without the masculine becomes receptive, but without an output. Like, it doesn't have like an ability to direct thought or have critical thinking. So, for example, if I wanted to practice telepathy with my friend and she's like about it, she would get into a receptive state. Okay, she would become more receptive, and then I would use my masculine principle to implant a thought into her feminine, right? But what a lot of people don't realize is that sometimes, since they have such a very weak like masculine principle, which is the will, the ability to like to think overall, right? The feminine is more vibrational. They don't realize that the government implants thoughts into their mind, or implants different things like ways of thinking, ways of being into their feminine receptive like principles. They like to keep people in the feminine energy, because without the feminine energy you do become submissive. There needs to be the other side as well, by the way, because we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But when the feminine energy is completely alone, it becomes chaos instead of flow, like flow with the universe. It becomes chaos and emotionally reactive, right? It becomes receptive to manipulation emotionally. So people that are in the other extreme, which is the elites, whatever you want to call them. I don't even know what they are at this point. But people who come into the other extreme, they're in the extreme of the masculine, which would be seen as Satan. And they use their masculine principle to implant thoughts into people's receptive minds, let's just say. That's animalistic magnetism, right? To turn people, use these energies in order to make them submissive or receptive, to not have like a critical thinking, not have identity as well. Like they mess a lot with identity, but identity, like the I am, like I think like this, I like this, I do this. That's what they want to take away from people, because obviously that puts you into an extreme. Like if you don't know who you are, you have no order, you don't know where to direct your energy. So the moment that somebody comes in and they're like, oh yeah, you know what you were feeling, oh yeah, this is this, and you know what you need this, right? That's mental manipulation, and they do this all the time, like through social media, through music. Oh my god, music is a whole other thing, but yeah, through everything really.
So really what they do is they use mind control to plant things, thoughts into your brain, basically into your mind when you are in a state of vulnerability, would you say? Like, is that how would you
Yeah.
describe it? Like if I'm vulnerable if I don't know who I am. And where
Mm-hmm.
does the part of our human come in when we want to survive, and then the implant that's connected to maybe a threat to our survival is amplified? Like, how does that play a role? I feel like survival, people say, keeping us in a state of fear. I think yes, it's fear, but it feels like survival, like our ability to actually be able to survive. If they can plant that thought that if we don't do this, then we will not survive, then I feel like that is such a huge current of how they maintain mind control.
Absolutely. I was talking about this with my husband the other day of how in the United States, for example, I mean, like there's the interest, the inflation is so crazy. I mean, like there's a lot of people, of course, that are not able to maintain themselves. They're in like working three jobs, they have kids, like they're constantly in the state of being really in the feminine energy. They just follow like a routine that they're told to do and they just do it. And on top of that, they a lot of them do end up also victimizing themselves, which is understandable given their situation. But also, of course, they keep them in that mindset where like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, like, and they believe it, and then they don't ever look at the opportunities that are around them so they can project their energy outwards and create, right? So yeah, they actually put you in a state of survival so you can be angry. If you're in a state of survival, you are angry, you are emotional, you are reactive, and you will do anything to get out of it, including listening to the people who dress as sheeps and like as their wolves in sheep's clothing, who offer solutions that are actually going to ultimately be their own demise.
Yes. 100%. And I think there's a gift in how they implant into us because it teaches us 100% accountability or 100% victim. There's like one or the other. It's like we can see how people still today in 2026 are still so easily manipulatable because they need to constantly stay a victim of their reality because it's the only thing that they know. It's like they're so used to being like, oh, everything is happenstance, and then all of these crappy things happen, and it's just, your typical Monday. And then there's others who are like, absolutely not. I do not consent to anything that disempowers me and keeps me in fear states. I consciously create my reality. It feels like there's like right now more than ever, like huge splitting and divide between 100% victimization and 100% personal accountability. In your experience, because what I love what you said earlier. You were talking about how like this is just the natural evolution of things, and I've toggled with this thought. Ira, I'm curious what you think, because some people deeply believe that we are going to the new earth, that there is moving out of a linear way of constructing reality into a quantum state of constructing reality. We are stepping into basically a completely new pattern on planet Earth of creation, and people call it the new earth. I've toggled with the idea that like we are just evolving just like we do every 100 years, and that nothing is actually quite special about what's happening on planet Earth other than evolution itself. Do you believe that we are just experiencing the division that has always existed on planet Earth, because that's how the construct of Earth works, and the evolution that we're having and experiencing is the evolution that we continue to see every single experience in history so far? Or is there something unique about this evolutionary timing that is leading us to some outcome that is different than before?
That's a pretty interesting idea to like toggle with too. I've thought about it too, because I mean, there's a lot of people that are like, "Oh yeah, the new Earth," and personally, when they say that, there's kind of like this part of me that is like, "But what about this one? Like, what do we do about this one?" You know what I mean? I think that the new earth is something we're already creating, we're already doing right now. Like, people who are working with their duality and they're working on integrating it and actually, not performing black magic, but doing the internal work to alchemize and integrate both of these energies, we're gonna be able to see such amazing outcomes from them. I think, honestly, of course, like, human beings, as long as we are refracted and we're not like one singular consciousness, which is not gonna happen for like eons, literally eons, we are going to have some, always like some sort of separation at some degree, maybe, obviously, I hope because of evolution, it's not going to be as bad as it is right now, but I mean, like, a couple 100 years ago, it was way worse. Like, way
Yeah.
worse. You know what I mean? So I think, yeah, like, there is something unique about this time because we are entering a new era where people are actually integrating the spiritual aspect. But because of that, we also have Lucifer coming through and making a lot of the spiritual people a little bit in the app, like, stay in the abstract rather than actually create. So it's just a big learning curve, in my opinion, with human beings actually learning how to like work with these two energies and not just go from one extreme to the next, because of course it's understandable. The principle of rhythm is one of the biggest things that will always happen. What swings left will equally swing to the right. And since we are coming out of a very patriarchal society where like women have been oppressed, obviously the feminine energy has been completely abused for so long. Now the feminine is coming up. It's like the Kali era, right? But it's like this angry feminine, this chaotic feminine, and we're just meant to like to really like work on the balance again of these two, right? Like, the masculine's not bad, but the extreme of it is, right, the satanic force. So integration of both is key. But like, I don't think the earth is going to split in two and one of them is going to go into a higher dimension and the other one's is going to stay. I don't think it's going to happen in that way. I mean, like, I don't know, because I'm just here, I'm just a human chilling. But yeah, it's really just the people who are in separation. I feel like that's just like their soul evolution. When they pass away, like, they're going to continue going down their path, and eventually they will come into integration.
I think I resonate with that. I I like that you have a very grounded approach to your spirituality, myself included. I really ask myself, what is the point of the information that I'm seeking? Like, does it matter if we're going to a new earth? If my experience of reality changes for the negative in any way? Meaning, if I start to become overly obsessed with this ideal outcome of a reality, and it actually makes me not appreciate the ideal reality I'm living in right now, then I don't really give a flying fig about the new earth. If it makes me less present in the now, if it makes me not genuinely ground the spiritual concepts or my gift development or my experience of life, if it doesn't allow me to enjoy life, then I don't really care about the new earth. I feel that there is in our community, like you said, a lot of psychosis in my world is what I identify and call it. Psychosis, where there's this complete disconnection from this physical reality, and everything becomes so allegorical about, expanding consciousness and transcending the illusion of this matrix and accessing the 12th dimension and working with all these middlemen in these different realms, that we kind of lose the experience of this beautiful, wonderful human material reality. And I don't know that I necessarily want to be without that. I don't think that we will in this realm, similar to you. Like, we're in a 3D physical reality. Do I think that maybe the way that we perceive it is going to expand in consciousness? Yes, like you said, we're going to become spiritually more embodied. I see that. But I don't know that I necessarily subscribe to the attachment to some earth being new, because in my experience, I'm curious how the listeners feel about it. It just seems like it's attaching again to an outcome that changes how I live today.
Waking up can feel like your whole world is turned upside down and there's no one there to catch you. Whoa! And so you ask yourself, who am I? What's my purpose? What are my gifts? And years later, you're still asking yourself the same questions. Cue the Sovereign Healer, the only psychic development and energy healing sovereign development school that'll help you understand your unique abilities without leaving your meditation cushion. Let's get it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like at the end of the day, I kind of also do see it like, if I may, egotistical. Because when I was kind of going through it and I was like, oh yeah, like 5D, 5D, I was like, yeah, I'm going to 5D, like the other people are not. And like I would try to get the other people to come to 5D. Bro, like that's literally fear state, you feel me? I would think about my family, my friends. And at the end of the day, I mean, like we're all in this together. Like actually, we're all in this together and we're all in different stages of our spiritual journey, and that's totally fine. But the earth is not going to split in two, and then the high people, like the higher people, are going to go into the 5D or whatever. I feel that is a bit egotistical. I think the ego loves to masturbate with the spiritual all the time. It's almost like the moment that you have some sort of like higher knowledge, the ego is like, yeah, higher knowledge, and it begins to like masturbate mentally with that knowledge. I call that, because yeah, it is almost like inflating your own ego in a way. And I mean, I went through that too. But at the end of the day, like if you think about concepts like 5D and everything, of I think maybe vibrationally we can tap into like a 5 dimensional version of this earth, but we're still gonna be physically here. You know what I mean? So maybe well, there is a cosmovision that actually explains like the movement towards that, but it's more of a cosmovision by Rudolf Steiner. I don't know if you're gonna resonate with it. I do, but
I love Rudolf Steiner.
oh, I love him too. I love Rudolf. But yeah, basically what he talks about is, have you ever heard of the divine androgynous? Like
Ooh, no,
divine
tell me
andro
more.
yeah, divine androgyny. So Mercury is an androgynous planet. So Mercury is really the planet of the integration of masculine and feminine energy becoming one, right? Being able to create the Merkaba, right? The fire and the water together, they become it's almost like the navigation of the mind of God, right? They come together, they create Mercury. So, according to Rudolf Steiner, we are in the planet Earth in order to connect with the heart, but integrate the masculine and feminine energies as an internal alchemy, becoming androgynous, but internally, not externally, right? And being able to work with these energies internally so they can rise to the heart, open up the heart, which is what we're here for. Mother Earth is heart chakra. And then that's when you open up the divine androgyny. And supposedly that's supposed to make us angels. Angels are beings of oneness. They don't work in duality, although they do have maybe some are more feminine, some are more masculine, but they really are in tune with the law of one fully. That is true non-duality, right? There are still hierarchies in angels, but that's a whole other thing. Either way, that is the path that, according to Rudolf Steiner, we are on. And personally, I have channeled a lot of like very similar concepts to Rudolf. When I read his work, I was like, oh my God, I already saw that. But yeah, it's like becoming divine androgynous is not like an external thing. A lot of people are actually, again, like doing like black magic externally to achieve that, but really they're meant to do it internally. Like the whole time they were meant to do it internally, so they try to skip steps by doing it externally, and that doesn't work that way, right? But again, like that's the internal alchemy and integration of masculine and feminine. But that's not something that's gonna, like, yeah, you're gonna work on that in like the human lifetimes, but you're not gonna like you're not gonna become like the essence of Mercury for eons, because we're not there yet. Like human beings are literally so separated right now, and we're here as a collective. Like there's not really like one person that is way above everybody else and they're about to reach their last lifetime. There's not, like, we're all in this together right now. And even if the person seems so ignorant and so asleep, you're not that far away from them.
That's kind of bringing like hope, if you will, in a sense, because it really allows us to consider the power that we have as a unit. You know, we're better together, especially, I mean, in this realm, and there's so much separation. I think human being to human being, like, we're better when we are working together for a higher evolution. Like when we consider contribution, where groups of humans come together for a positive cause, I truly believe that's one of the most powerful frequencies we can collaborate to create. Like higher service for a higher, greater good with no ego and true divine consideration of the whole. I wonder though, because you mentioned so within, so without. If I have mastered inner androgyny, wouldn't it be possible that I would just embody external androgyny? Wouldn't that be the principle that you speak of?
Yeah, of course. I think honestly, yeah, you can embody that, but at the end of the day, like, there's one thing about embodying, because I personally, I mean, like, I'm bisexual, right? So I like men, I like women. When I'm with women, I'm very masculine. Like I like to dress masculine. I'm married now, but when I was with women, I like to dress very masculine. Like I can really be androgynous. Is my point, right? But that doesn't take away from me having a female body, which I, at the end of the day, even in the times that I've been like, I want to be a man, even when I was 9 years old, like wishing I was a man, like every single day, like it's really like honoring the vessel that you have, which is the expression, that the way that I like to see it is like it's the expression of your soul in this realm. So really like your physical vessel is the closest your soul can get to a materialization. So it's important to take care of it and realize like, yeah, if you have like your vessel, use your vessel, because your vessel has certain energy points that are different from other vessels that are going to help you in this journey, right? It's like wanting to read, for example, the microcosm and the macrocosm are very connected and interconnected, as above so below, right? So if you were to want to read yourself and your soul journey, you have to look within instead of looking with like outside of you. And it's important you have your body like as something that you honor. But again, like that's why I don't like gender roles in general, like because I think women, like, yeah, there are more masculine and feminine clothes, like, yeah, we can agree with that, like everybody can be like, okay, yeah, you know, a dress, whatever. But at the end of the day, I really do feel like if you want to dress like however you want to dress, cool, like as long as you're not dressing it to change something externally to match something that you're not, that is when it's more healthy, right? Like you're just doing it because that's just your natural expression. But I think the disparaging of the body is when it becomes a black magic practice, like something that is unhealthy to you, right? To everybody really. But yeah, like the disparaging of the body is like it's something that I see quite a lot, like with my generation personally.
Oh, and totally with my generation as well. And being a bystander of watching my partner who's transgender go through this journey, having had no experience with any transgender person, anybody I'd ever seen, like we had like one transgender person like in my school and everyone like made fun of them because no one had any experience, to now it becoming like this big mainstream thing where so many people are doing it from the disembodied energy to try to access non-duality, try to access this androgyny, this permission to be who they really are, but without doing any of the inner alchemy work, hoping that the external change will bring the internal change. I mean, it's everywhere. And I believe that, to the conversation earlier, I believe a lot of these satanic forces are literally using the manipulation of gender in attempts to keep us more and more and more separated from our wholeness, more and more separated from doing the fucking work. And I have been so privileged to watch my partner be the only person I have truly seen do this transition from what I believe has been absolute coherence. I haven't seen it anywhere else. And I think that's why in many ways we don't talk to a lot of people about his journey. We don't feel called to really speak about it because it's like throwing a needle into a haystack of a very inverted, twisted, manipulated way of navigating gender, identity, self-worth, belonging. But like, where do you even start? when you unpack that. But this is the only example where I've actually been like, I think if Hayden sat in a room with anybody who has opinions about gender, anything, I think that there could be an elasticization of a perspective, because I've never seen it happen truly equally internally as it is happening externally. And I believe in 100%, wholeness, which is a fascinating thought. It would, honestly, I would have never, ever held this perspective unless I got to witness it in front of my own eyes. I wonder if there are a few, I'll say few, group of people who are embodying this true sacred inner androgyny and the external androgyny from a very balanced perspective. I wonder if that exists. I'm seeing it from my partner, but I'm certainly not seeing it really anywhere else.
Right. So I do have like a opinion on this that I have thought about quite a lot because, for example, I mean, where could I start with this? Okay, so with the alchemy of internal androgyny with masculine and feminine, I feel like that when it comes to the external body, again, like the vessel that you have that you come here with has certain energy points that are very important to keep in mind. I don't know if you know about Edgar Casey, but this man like would literally channel while he was sleeping, and he was considered the sleeping psychic, like who would go to sleep and talk like this crazy stuff. You ask him anything, and he like could channel it. So, anyways, one of the things that he has talked about is the endocrine system, which is correlated with the chakras, right? Now, women have the chakras are different than the masculine chakras, so their polarities are inverted. So, for example, the female body has a negative polarity in the vagina. In the sacral, it has a positive polarity because it's a feminine energy center. The solar plexus, negative. Heart, positive. The heart is the positive force because of course it's a heart chakra, it's meant to pump the life force as well, but it's the chests as well, right? The chests of a woman are charged with positive energy, and the vagina is negative. The clitoris though is positive because it was basically, it's that's actually where the penis of a man is created from, the clitoris, because men
Yeah,
are
I
women first.
learned that.
It's pretty
I
interesting.
know, right?
Yeah. So the penis of a man is actually positive polarity, while the sacral is negative, right? And so on and so forth. But that's the thing. When you my personal opinion, and I think everybody has like their like the right to think about what they want when it comes to this, of course, because I don't know the truth. I'm just going off what I feel I know. But is that when you begin to mess with like certain organs of the body, like for example the womb, and you take it out, you're messing with your endocrine system. Your sexual organs are psychic organs. Removing them keeps you in like certain states, right? But it's not, how do you say, it's not forever, because I don't, you're a human being, like you're literally one with God, so that doesn't mean that like because you went through like the whole process of like removing your breasts or removing your womb, that doesn't mean that you're stuck like forever. If you begin to have a spiritual practice, anything is possible with the power of God, right? Especially with the power of organic movements. But either way, that's why personally I believe that taking out like certain organs, like the sexual organs, like the breasts, the womb, the penis, right, is super dangerous, especially given that a lot of people who do that are not at all like integrated with the spiritual. And also like because I like women, I'm not gonna sit here and speak like a Christian when it comes to gay love or whatever, because I don't know if that's natural or not. I don't, and that's not for me to know. I know I like women, and I don't know if I was born with it or not, but what I do know is that there are people who are not actually in the LGBTQ and that are programmed into it, and majority of them actually are, because they're putting things in our, like pesticides in our foods, like atrazine, which literally chemically castrates men and makes women become emotionally reactive and not like the masculine. It literally messes with their hormones and the chemicals in their brain. You have um estrogen in the water supply from the birth control that women pee out. the first thing that they tell women when they are 13, birth control. Why? Because not only does it mess with their bodies and they become a pharmacy client for life, but it also messes with the men, because the water supply doesn't filter out estrogen, right? So men end up drinking that, and this is why you see such feminine men now. Men that, like, you can see
Whoa.
their faces are more
Wow, that's fascinating. I've never heard this perspective. It's absolutely mind-blowing to me.
yeah, if you look it up online, you can see that the testosterone levels have dropped immensely, at least in the United States. I don't know how it is in the rest of the world, but I do know that they test out a lot of those things in this side of the world. But overall, yeah, testosterone levels have dropped like crazy, crazy, crazy. And it's interesting. I have multiple friends who are teachers, and they tell me that each year in their classroom, the kids look like, the male kids, the boys, they look younger and younger and younger and more feminine and more feminine and more feminine with each class that goes by. So it's something that is happening all around. Yeah, it is chemical manipulation. I'm not saying that, of course, like, a man can't be born with more feminine energy. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that a lot are not, or a lot are manipulated into thinking that they are, and women as well. So I think it's just, as long as you're messing with people's identity, again, like back to the identity thing, as long as you're messing with people's identity, you're going to make them susceptible to manipulation, right?
I love the way you feel about it. And I appreciate that my partner's trans. I'm similar to you. I guess people would call me pansexual if they gave me a label, because I've never really been one ever since I was young. I don't know if I was born queer. Like, I don't know. I do know that I met the person that I knew my soul was meant to evolve with, and it just happened to be a woman. And then I just happened to be on this journey while they transition. And before that, maybe I had moments of like being fluid sexually, I guess. I've always been like that, but I didn't connect the dots until I had my first female relationship. Like, I don't know what my sexuality is, in short. I don't really know. I don't know if I have a label for it. If people gave it, it would be pansexual. I love the spirit of somebody, and I love the spirit of somebody's heart. Like, I've always been that way. And I see that there's a lot of concern that's happening in the world. And I love that the way that you're bringing it up to somebody like myself, who obviously has a very real, tangible experience of this. It shows a lot about your embodiment. The way that you can converse about your opinions respectfully, the way that you can acknowledge that I have a very lived experience and not take away my journey, not to validate my journey, and to share your perspective. It speaks a lot about you, Irah, and the way that you hold this posture. I wouldn't typically go into a conversation like this with anybody, because honestly, when you know your truth and you're so solid in your truth, I don't want to sit here and debate with somebody about gender when I know what I know to be true, right? Just in the same way, it's like, you don't want to have to be in an uncomfortable conversation where like they have their truth and you don't want to like make them feel some type of way. It's just, I really respect the way that you were able to even just like touch that topic with me, knowing that it's sensitive in the sense that it's my lived experience. And I very much resonate with everything that you're saying. I very much resonate with this conversation about just the overall manipulation of our masculine and feminine, and how that's playing such a huge role in the gender conversation. And I also I hold so many different truths, but another truth that I hold about this is that I believe that there are very embodied people, very few right now, but embodied people who are truly doing this inner and external work. And I love also what you shared about the organs. I agree with that. That's been a conversation my partner and I have had privately about like what that journey would actually look like to embody what he knows internally, externally, within integrity. And I think a lot of people breach that biological integrity in order to try to like perceive something that it's ultimately not. Like, how do we balance what is real, which is you are a biological X, Y, like, and how do we do the internal work so that you can embody that real in real without having to morphosize it into something that it's not, to perceive like it's something, but at the end of the day, it'll never be. And I think we kind of hold similar maybe perspectives on that.
Mm-hmm. Are you asking me
Like,
that question, by the way?
no, I would love to hear if you have any reflections on that.
Oh yeah, of course. So I think honestly, I mean, there's like you can look at it maybe like yeah, there's like the spiritual lens, the political lens as well, which we've seen quite a lot. I mean, like with politics, I don't get too much into politics, but there is like the masculine, feminine energy within politics is uncanny, like to notice when you're in this. But I mean, personally, when it comes to the like transgender, somebody who internally feels a certain way, I feel like the like how the energies show up inside of you is very important to integrate like the other side as well. But that doesn't mean that you're gonna show up like a woman with a dress and your heels or makeup or whatever if you feel internally like you're more like masculine, right? Like you're more of a man, etc. But I do feel like you can be that androgynous or more masculine person without actually like saying that you're maybe a man, etc., because you still have your body, like your body's still there. But why can't you just be a very 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 like um like very masculine woman? I feel like, for example, me, when I was 9 years old, I've always been super masculine. Like I've worked a lot with my femininity, like with my feminine energy. That was like my one of my biggest wounds, etc. Because yeah, like my dad was very in the extreme of the masculine, so I was like raised very masculine. And when I was 9 years old, I remember that I learned about transgender people, and I wanted so bad to be a man because I already felt like a man. I was a tomboy like for so long, and I already felt like a man, whatever. And if my parents would have said yes, oh my god. But anyways, I would have regretted it so much. But I think honestly that you can embody like who you are inside through your body. I think people like to put boxes and labels on people's external of like their physical bodies, like how they should look, how they should be, without realizing that as long as you have a body and you honor the organs it comes with and the differences it comes with, you can still express a masculine essence through a feminine body, a female body. And that's, I think that's so cool because you're really like there, you're really actually combining it because you're honoring both things, right? You really are in coherence. But yeah, like that would be more of my opinion on it. And of course, I think of like I personally, this is my opinion again, I don't think a man can ever be a woman or a woman can ever be a man because that's just two different bodies. And I think women, especially after so much oppression and sexual harassment and a bunch of things, they do deserve their own spaces, and men deserve their own too, right? So I think it's just a matter of respect. And if you do want to, of course, go through with like the whole transition process, I think that's a journey that you should, of course, do. You shouldn't force it upon other people either, because that's not how reality works. And you also should respect other people's spaces, right? So that's kind of how I feel about it.
Thank you for sharing that. And actually, I actually agree with most of it. You know, I think one of the most beautiful things is my husband has never been like, I want you to call me a man. He's like, you can call me whatever the fuck you want. Like, whatever serves your narrative works
I
for me.
love
You know, he's like, you can call me a woman. I know who I am. And he's not like, I'm a man. I'm a trans man, which is a totally different thing.
There you go. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's the thing. He's not like,
That's
I
literally
want
like
to
they're their
be.
own category. Like that's
They
what I love.
are.
Like I really really love trans people who can admit that they're like that, like they can literally see that to believe that you're truly a man and like impose that on people is illusion. Again, that's the Lucifer energy. Like that, you can tie it back to that. It's delusion. But if you say you're a trans man, you understand you are different, and you understand like that change will never happen, but at the same time you have your own thing going on, and that's what matters, right? That's the thing that I love. Like really, that's when you respect, of course, other people, especially women, and at the same time you're not disparaging your body. And that's how I feel, because you can really be you can know like who you are inside, but at the same, like having that trance right before it really does like set the tone for reality. And I love that because it's grounded.
It's real. It's what it is. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
that the bare minimum of that is like it is what it is. And there's no pretending that you're constructing something else so that it appears like something to make yourself feel better because of a fragmented version of yourself. That's what I'm obsessed with about my partner, is that he knows he's a trans man. He doesn't care how people choose to identify. It doesn't change his experience of it. He knew that he could have been completely content as what they call your dead name, which I think is so lame. Like, why would you call it a dead name? But for the sake of conversation, like who he was before his transition, his name was Rachel. He has no internal trigger about who he was, staying who he was, if that's what he decided. He sat with every single part of his own shit to be like, I could, similar to Irah, like from a very young age, he wanted to do all the boy stuff. And he was like, well, maybe I could just keep doing the boy stuff that I did before and just keep doing that and be Rachel. Like, that could have been a truth. But it wasn't for him the truth that would make him feel truly the most whole in this lifetime. And that, I believe, gets to be true as long as it is whole and as long as it is real. And in this situation, I feel like my partner represents that. And it holds very, very similar congruence to the thing that I feel like you are really standing for, which is like, whatever you choose, just make sure it's real. And if it's illusion, you'll have your own path. And we can call it whatever you want it to, but at the end of the day, there's truth and there's an illusion. And that is something that I definitely agree with as well.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I mean, like at the end of the day, I think really what people should be doing overall, I mean, with all these different agendas and things like confusing us a lot, is finding the common ground between feeling and reality and being able to merge and integrate both of them, right? Because at the end of the day, like feelings are vibration and those are always changing, right? But you want to make sure that what you create here, especially if it's going to be permanent, it's something that is congruent with the permanent feeling as well. So I think overall, what people should really be looking for to not fall like victims to agendas that are meant to confuse them and go into a state of fear and hate towards themselves is looking for that common ground where they can still be connected to reality and like their bodies with the body's amazing, like it's a vessel, it's a whole vehicle to navigate this material realm, you know. So yeah, that's basically like I agree a lot with you. And I think it's just really cool. I mean, personally, I didn't. It's, how do you say, like it's pretty cool to hear your perspective on your husband, etc. Because I think it's really cool to just see different perspectives and not be like, oh no, but like your husband is this and this. Like, no, bro, that's not how this works. Like, you're not gonna convince anybody like that, and you're not even here to convince in the first place. Like everybody can have their own opinions about what's going on. Just focus on your own life, and that's what I really deeply respect about you and your husband. That it's not something that you're like pushing, or it's very intimate. Like you said, it's very private, and I like that.
It is private, and it should be that way. But nowadays, everybody demands to have their opinion honored unless it's different than yours. And that's really at the heart of why I wanted to create the spiritual debate, because I wanted to be able to sit here and have a conversation with you. And if it led us to the conversation that we knew it could have possibly, that it would come in natural order and it would come with respect and it would come in the right timing. And regardless of if we agreed or disagreed, there was a loving container for nuance to be acknowledged. And that's really at the heart what I feel like we were able to get into was a fundamental agreeability in what is real, what is true, and what is ultimate, while also acknowledging an individual's experience. And that's really what I feel like we were able to get to at the heart of this, while also acknowledging that there are very clear divisions that are happening on this planet that are intending to implant more and more distortion, which is also something that I totally agree in, particularly in the conversation of gender, but in the conversation of everything on planet Earth right now. In some way, there is an implant to keep us in a state of fear, keep us in a state of survival, but to ultimately keep us, what I believe, disconnected from our sovereignty. So on that note, Irah, thank you so much for coming on the Spiritual Debate podcast today. You are a brilliant, extraordinary woman who clearly not just has walked or learned through spiritual development, but actually backed with research, with science, and with understanding. And that is so clear in how you showed up here today inside of the debate. I would love to open up the floor for any kind of final pieces of advice or, any final reflections as we close out today's conversation.
Yeah, piece of advice, take a look at the relationship with your internal parents. And in order to actually see how you can balance these out, the best thing that you can actually do is create your own internal parents, your own mother, your own father, and that's how you actually alchemize these energies to create for you, right? So looking into that, into the relationship you currently have with your parents as well, try to maybe find forgiveness. I know it's hard, but that's a whole process of its own, of course. And seeing how you can reparent yourself, which is the key to actually using these two energies to their fullest potential. But yeah, that's basically what I wanted to cover. Don't have resentment towards one or the other energy, because they're both equally as important and equally as powerful, and you're meant to use them both.
So then I guess in conclusion, our topic today was, is division by design? I guess you would agree that yes, division is by design when it comes to polarity, when it comes to power, when it comes to corruption. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, I actually definitely 100% agree as well. So, as always, we leave it with the listeners. We leave it with the people who have been with us for the last hour, who've now been able to kind of listen to two different and yet very similar, nuanced perspectives about division. And now we leave it with everybody. Is division by design? I am V, and it's been extraordinary having Irah here today. And we will see you all again
Thank you so
very
much,
soon.
my love. Bye.